Welcome back to the Dirt Diaries, explorers. Today, we're diving into some of the sites that I'm going to be paying close attention to this upcoming year. Because as you guys know, 2024 turned up so many incredible archaeological discoveries, new reports, and more. So for right now, I'm picking 4 sites to dive into. So grab your shovels, your trowels, your petitions, and more because we're digging deeper. All right, first up on the docket is going to be looking at the site of Taposiris Magna, really specifically looking at what is going on with the excavations concerning really looking for the tomb of Cleopatra. Now, I'm always getting questions, DMs, emails about what exactly is going on with the excavations going on searching for Cleopatra's tomb. Now, on the Dirt Diaries podcast, I am actually planning to not only dive into the reign of the last ruler of Egypt, Cleopatra VII, but I also want to really kind of tackle the question of what is the specific timeline for the excavations currently ongoing at Taposiris Magna. And really, the Spark Note edition of why they're digging here specifically comes back to their lead excavator, Kathleen Martinez, who is really searching for the tomb of Cleopatra. Now, you might be wondering, why is this specifically on my radar? Well, there have been rumors that there is a full excavation report planning to be released in early 2025. I've heard everything from January, February to March. So first quarter of the year, we hopefully, fingers crossed, will be getting something about the recent excavations from 2024. And you're probably thinking, okay, that's awesome, cool, a long report with a lot of terms. Why does this matter? Well, I will tell you why it matters. Now, because in early December, news outlets were actually reporting on a small white marble female head that was discovered from the excavation. And from the reports, what we can tell as scholars and archaeologists is that this marble head, which I have up for you guys right now, was found in a foundation deposit. And it was located near a wall at Taposiris Magna. So really, we don't really know much about this incredible find. So really, we don't have much information to go off of for this discovery. But what really makes this kind of stand out recently in the realm of archaeology news, if you will, is the fact that the lead excavator is claiming that this is the image of Cleopatra VII. Now, I was very skeptical when I came across this news report in the first 2 weeks of December. And I was really kind of raising my red flags, if you will, for a number of reasons. So first and foremost, the biggest reason that jumped out at me was there's not a lot of context with this. In this incredible find that they are claiming to be the image of the last queen of Egypt, there is no context to give it. And you might be saying, well, what is context that you're looking for here? Well, the only thing that's really been said or reported by the news outlets is that it was found in a foundation deposit. Okay. While that's really cool and great on its own, that doesn't tell us much, let alone tell us specifically that this is the image of Cleopatra. Now, the second was it didn't really specify where in the site it was found other than saying it was a foundation deposit found near a wall. Where? I'd love to know. Where's the map? And biggest thing for me that I picked up instantly was the dating of this. The dating of this is spotty at best. Now, with marble, with stone, with anything like that, you can unfortunately not carbon date these. So what are we left to do? We, as archaeologists, have to date it stylistically, which is why we use pottery, artwork to date things if we do not have anything that we can date with carbon-14. But if you're really lucky, like they were here, they also found over 300 coins in the deposit. Now, from these coins, I believe it's about half of them, I want to say, bear the image of Cleopatra VII. Aha! So this helps us with our dating because it helps us in terms of establishing a TPQ, which is just shorthand for terminus post quem, meaning it is the earliest time that something could have occurred. So for this example, it is going to be the earliest time that this foundation deposit could have been created. So, because we have coins bearing Cleopatra VII, we can say that the earliest that this foundation deposit was created and all of this artwork was put in was the reign of Cleopatra VII. Why? Because we already have coins with her image on it. That's very helpful. But at best, that puts us in the later half of the 1st century BCE. Okay, we still got a lot of time to work with, a lot of time, a lot of stuff is happening in Egypt during this time period. But just because we have the time period to the first or the back end of the 1st century BCE, that doesn't necessarily mean that this marble head depicts her. We also have the famed Zahi Hawass commenting on this find specifically, where he notes that he looked at this marble head very, very closely, up close and personal, and he actually doesn't believe it is Ptolemaic at all. He believes that the artistic style, this was carved, really emulates a Roman type. So I will say my specialty is not Ptolemaic or early Roman Egyptian artwork. That's not my time period. That's not my specialty. But I will say another red flag that came up for me after, reading Zahi Hawass's take on this was the fact that there's no comparable evidence that was also reported on. There was no other cases of, if you look at this one from the Greco-Roman Museum in Alexandria today, you can see that this statue head is very similar to this one. So by using comparable evidence, here's how we are deducing that this is in fact a representation of the last queen of Egypt. We don't have any of that. And the more I broke down this report, the more I realized there was not much evidence given at all. So I'm really looking forward to reading the larger report on this, because in the news reports as well, they also commented, and I have photos as well up for you, but they also commented on a male bust. It's the upper portion of a bust, which includes a male ruler who was wearing a Nemes crown. Okay, we don't exactly know who this is, and we don't really have any clues leading us to any specific direction of which leader this may be. So at best, we're going by TPQ of the coins right now. But as I always say, when news reports come out like this and things are just, really flashy, it's the image of Cleopatra, we've never seen this before, anything like that, I implore you to use some of the tactics that I teach my students each and every semester. So the first thing is look at who the author is. So because this is actually coming from the excavator specifically, I would say that Kathleen Martinez would be the author. Now, with that, go ahead, look her up. What are her credentials? Are they easy to find? What is her training in archaeology, Egyptology, anything like that? And should we trust her, and why? That's going to be your best bet starting off. Following that, let's look at really what is the purpose of the news article? What is the purpose of the archaeological report? Anything like that. What's its hypothesis? What are they trying to prove? Okay, so they're looking for images of Cleopatra. Cool. Next, what evidence are they using to support their claim? And this, my dear friends, my dear explorers out there, is where you should be reading with a microscope, because as I just went over, not much evidence was given. So at the end, I always ask my students to help break down articles. Do you believe their opinion? Are you convinced, or are you not? And what more would you want to know from this? So I implore you to also think about it that way as well. Now, next up on the docket is going to be Pompeii, because Pompeii is just so cool. If you guys ever get a chance to go, please go visit Pompeii as well as Herculaneum. It was truly just an incredible experience to go and visit, and I am dying to get there a few more times. So hopefully I'll be able to go and just wander the streets once again. But why Pompeii? Well, Pompeii, of course, because it's Pompeii. But because recently, at the end of December, the archaeological site of Pompeii announced new, beautifully preserved frescoes found in a colonnaded hall in Regio 9. Now, Regio 9 has been really just churning out incredible preserved areas. It's a more residential area of Pompeii. They also mentioned in the report Regio 5. So Regio 5 is different than the colonnaded hall that I'm talking about, but Regio 5 was closed for some time because it just wasn't safe for visitors to be in the area. So due to, safety measures being re-put in, further excavations being done, Regio 5 is actually now open again. And if you know Pompeii, Regio 5 is where we actually have a beautifully decorated, basically fast food counter of the Roman world. And it actually has a Nereid riding a hippocampus, and it's gorgeous, as you can see from the images. The yellows are so bright and vibrant. And then next to the counter, we still have beautiful frescoes and everything. And archaeologists have commented that it depicts animals of, those who were likely sold and cooked at this food counter. So ancient food counters, we love ancient food here at Dirt Diaries. But Regio 9. Now, Regio 9 has been churning out so much this year, not only in the ancient art department, but because earlier this year, archaeologists also came across 2 more victims of the Mount Vesuvius eruption from 79 CE. And this was the one where a woman was found on a bed, clutching what seemed to be a purse full of coins. And then there was a younger man, I believe he was in his 20s. He was off to the side, and archaeologists had deduced that basically these individuals likely sought shelter together in this bedroom that also had a altar, I believe, as well as a table that also had vases and everything on it. So these individuals were likely, trying to seek safety and shelter. So they came in here. They are not related to one another, genetically at least. And unfortunately, as the eruption just continued, they became trapped. So the doorway that they entered in through, likely there may have been a collapse of the building outside, or it just got too dangerous for them to traverse. So they unfortunately just became stuck in this room. The other incredible news coming out of Pompeii this year was coming from the DNA analysis from a few of the plaster casts who, they were just going in for checks and everything. So archaeologists and scientists were actually able to get some DNA from these plaster casts from the human remains that are still inside. And this really redefined everything that archaeologists had previously thought they knew about the victims from Mount Vesuvius. For example, from the House of the Golden Bracelet, these 2 individuals had their story told as being a mother who was protecting their young child, their infant, in the last moments of their life, which that's a very moving story on its own, that a mother in the last moments of life is doing whatever she could to protect her family. Unfortunately, genetically, that's not the story that we're actually seeing. We are in fact seeing from this case specifically that it is an adult male who is caring for a young child. And these 2 are not genetically related. So there is no genetic relation shared, but that does not mean that there could have been some sort of social connection, that they may have known each other. But to me, this is such an incredible find, because while, yes, the mom protecting her child in the final moments during a crazy destruction, that's going to pull at everybody's heartstrings. But for me, the fact that we're seeing 2 people who are not genetically related to one another in an area seeking shelter, I don't know, to me that is utterly fascinating, that we are seeing really what it means to be human, that in times of crisis, we will do what we can to help others around us. Perhaps this older gentleman, looked back and realized this young child may not survive, so let me pick them up and take them with me. And we're seeing that a lot more of, with other plaster casts of these 2 individuals actually were believed to be a mother and daughter, or 2 sisters, or even lovers. But genetic analysis has now actually found them to be 2 men together, which it really just goes to show that at the end of the day, when we are placed in, times of crisis or destruction, you will always try and go with somebody. You will always try and seek shelter. And that's what's utterly fascinating about this, that I really want to look into further and see what else comes out with the testing and everything of what can we learn from how we as humans react in times of crises. How are we in our relationships changing with external factors like a crisis, like a natural disaster? How is that shaping us, and how can we learn to do better from the past? But I'm really looking forward to see what else is coming out of that. If we can actually get any more plaster cast analysis done as well, I'd be really, really interested in that. All right, up next, number 3 for me is going to be more information coming out of that Bronze Age shipwreck that was discovered about, I think it was 90 kilometers off shore in the far eastern Mediterranean world. And this is the first time we actually have like a deep sea Bronze Age shipwreck, and it's beautifully preserved from what the photos can tell us. And this is really important for the understanding and studying of the Bronze Age Mediterranean world itself. Why? Well, because for the most part, we only have 2 Bronze Age shipwrecks, and they're off the south coast of Turkey today, modern day Turkey, ancient Anatolia, and that is the Uluburun shipwreck, and that is also the Cape Caledonia shipwreck. And these both date to the late Bronze Age, but the Uluburun is actually slightly earlier than the Cape Caledonia. But because of those 2 shipwrecks, archaeologists who work in the Bronze Age Mediterranean world, we had previously believed that these shipwrecks were the result of ancient mariners only sailing along the coastline, that they weren't traversing into the deeper Mediterranean. Nay, they were staying where they could see land. But this new finding changes everything. And we know from this shipwreck, thanks to pottery, thanks to, amphora on board, they were stylistically dated to the 14th and 13th centuries BCE, cementing it beautifully in the late Bronze Age. I love that. And it is of a Levantine type, so we do know that this was a type that was heavily used in ancient maritime trade. And for my own research and my own, work and everything, I'm super excited to see this, because my work really focuses on how trade is influencing, how artwork is moving, how people, ideas, all of this kind of stuff is moving throughout the Eastern Mediterranean during this time. So I'm personally super excited about this. Maybe there might be a few talks or further research that is going to be dropped in the first weekend of January at the AIA conference, so the Archaeological Institute of America conference. I will be there this weekend presenting my own research. So if I do see something on any of these topics, I will let you guys know. But last, but certainly not least, something that has recently piqued my interest is the site of Lagina, located in modern day Turkey. And this one comes from a recent find that has to do with the ancient Greek goddess who really had associations to crossroads, necromancy, and more. Of course, today she's known by many names with different pronunciations. Many are known by Hecate, Hecate, or even Hecate. Now, this is a massively important goddess in the ancient world, but specifically, the site of Lagina in modern-day Turkey is going to be a major cultic center to the goddess, and there's a lot of reasons about this that perhaps we'll deep dive into later, but archaeologists are actually looking for a sacred road at this site that will tell us more about basically the pilgrimages that ancient individuals took to get to the site, to worship this goddess, and just to learn more about cultic and pilgrimage practices. But the new findings recently came out, was it December or late November, where archaeologists found on a column, it was a incised image of a torch. Now, torches are well-known attributes, emblems of the goddess. So they're like, okay, awesome, this is pointing us in the right direction. But along with that, they also found on the capital of a column, so that's what goes on top of the column, it's very Corinthian-like, but there are figural images on it, which is not known to any capital type, but it has a face on it, which is so cool because it's the first of its kind found at this site. But it has been stylistically dated to the 2nd century CE, placing it in the Roman period. But I'm really excited to see if we can glean who this is supposed to depict. Is it supposed to depict anybody of importance in the ancient world? And yeah, see if there's any more figural representations on ancient columns at this site. I'm utterly fascinated by this. Love it, love it, love it, especially as an art historian. Absolutely love it. Can't get enough. But this plays really interestingly because back in 2023, early fall. I think it was August or September of 2023. The site of Calenduris, which is a few hours southeast of Lagina, still in modern day Turkey. A statue of the goddess in triplet form was discovered, and Calenduris also shares ties to the site of Lagina specifically. So I would love to see more about how these sites are related to one another within the religious practices surrounding this goddess, and yeah, how they're all interconnected to one another. I'm really fascinated about that. But with that being said, these are 4 sites that I'm really gonna keep my peepers peeled about for 2025. And yeah, I'll be letting you guys know about if there's any new reports coming out from the AIAs. And yeah, as always, I will be back with the Dirt Diaries podcast in February. But as I always say, stay curious, keep your books open, and I'll see you next time on the Dirt Diaries.